If there is one thing that all filmmakers share in common, it's rejection. I know, rejection stinks, but we all go through it. It's part of the industry. But the good news is you can avoid rejection, at least a little bit, if you avoid certain critical mistakes that get your film rejected when it didn't have to be. And that's what this video is about. These are the 5 mistakes that get you rejected from film festivals. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Scott. I'm an independent filmmaker, and I have traveled thousands of miles all over the country going to film festivals, and I have seen quite a bit. And now I help organize a film festival, and I sit on the screening committee watching hundreds of submissions every single year. And these are the most critical errors that I see made time and time again. And I want to relay them to you because I don't want to see these errors being made. I want to dive right into it, but before we get started, if you could do me a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It really helps out the channel and helps us reach more filmmakers so fewer people can make these kinds of mistakes. Number 5 is what I would call rough editing, or editing that feels rushed or unfinished. Something you just kind of did very quickly, took one pass at, and then never came back to. And I notice it mostly with either shots that linger a little bit too long, awkwardly cut dialogue scenes, or just a lack of dynamic angles. And this is really a lesson in how editing affects the flow of a film. It's not just about the shots that you select, it's how they're cut together. So you can really improve it if you just take a second look at things, or a third look, or get somebody else to take a second or a third look to it. Most young directors are probably editing their own stuff. And if this is you, just know that that is something that you have to get better at, and you have to be more critical of yourself at, because you can fall in love with a shot that you got, or you can fall in love with a specific piece of dialogue that you wrote and that you put in the film. But if it's not working, you have to cut it. And you have to be able to be honest with yourself to cut those things because it affects the flow of the film. Number 4 is what I would call distracting cinematography. I don't want to call things bad or good just in a generic way here. I want to be constructive about what we're talking about specifically that's not great about your cinematography or your editing or otherwise. When it comes to cinematography that becomes problematic, the most common things I see are hard shadows, awkward blocking, out of focus actors, and either over or under exposure. These mistakes, specifically with cinematography, you can't fix them in the edit. You can't bring a person into focus in the edit. You can't bring back blown out highlights in the edit. You can't change the blocking of the actors in the edit. You can't necessarily remove hard shadows without completely going overboard and changing and adding so much to the process, the editing process. Avoid these mistakes in principal photography to make your editing process better and just make your film look better. There's lots of ways to learn how to do it, but if you take that time and plan your shoots out, because that's usually what happens is when things are done too quickly. And I get it. With independent films, you only have so much time at a location, or you only have so much time with your actors before they have to go to work or something like that. So you only have a limited amount of time and you want to rush to get everything done. I understand that. If that happens, or if you're going into a situation like that, plan ahead. You have to understand what environment you're walking into, what the lighting conditions are going to be, what the audio conditions are going to be, so that you can work quickly on set, but without just winging it. The more planning you do ahead of time, the more comfortable and the more efficient your shoot is going to be. The screens that are on DSLR cameras that a lot of independent and new filmmakers are using are very small, and it's hard to get your focus there. I get it. These are all limitations that every filmmaker has to deal with. You have to figure out ways around that. Get a monitor. All right. There are monitors that are reasonably priced that have peaking features and have false color features that can help you with getting focus and figuring out your exposure so you can avoid those things. And I encourage you to learn all you can about cinematography so you can avoid having to try to fix things in the edit or hide them in the edit, and you're just kind of stuck. Number 3, and this is my number 1 complaint. If you ask anybody that is on this screening committee with me, this is the number 1 thing that I say to anybody after I watch a film. Your movies are too long. All right, especially with short films. It happens sometimes with feature films and sometimes with documentaries. More often than anything else, I say, there was a good, shorter edit in here, but you went too long. When you make a film that is longer, that is 25 minutes to half an hour, you have to think about it from the film festival's perspective. We have to plan blocks, and those blocks usually only last about 2 hours, maybe a little bit longer depending on what's in there. But about 2 hours is generally how long blocks are going to be. You usually only have the venue for so long, and you only have the attention of the audience for so long. A lot of people don't want to sit in a film block for 3 or 4 hours. So when you have a short film that is half an hour long, you're just raising the bar of how good that has to be in order to make it into one of those blocks. We want as many filmmakers to be a part of our festival as possible. So if we accept one half-hour film or one 25-minute film, when we could have taken 2 or 3 10-minute films, sub-10-minute films, that's a choice that we have to make. And some festivals, if they really like your film, they're going to program it. But other festivals, they're going to make that choice. You don't have control over what that festival prioritizes. If a movie is going 20, 30 minutes long, and I'm not totally locked into it within the first couple of minutes, I'll just turn it off. And that brings me to the pro tip for this entire video. Get feedback. Have friends that will tell you the truth about your film and then listen to them. And that's the important part. You have to have the discipline as a filmmaker to listen to constructive criticism and listen to what your audience is telling you. Take the time, take a few different looks at it, and make sure that you're getting the absolute best edit that you possibly can before you're sending it into film festivals. Because once you send it in, that's it. That's the only cut that we're going to see. Very few film festivals allow rough cuts into the submission process. Whatever you send is what they judge, and they're not going to wait for you to improve it. And that brings me to number 2. And I'm not trying to be harsh here or single anybody out, except for you. You know who you are. But number 2, your film is boring. Sorry. When I say boring films, I mean films that don't have a hook, films that lack style, just aesthetically not pleasing, cryptic dialogue where we don't understand what's going on. If you don't hook your audience within the first couple of seconds, really, you just lose them throughout the entire thing. And you can't do that if you don't have your actors doing interesting things. And that comes down to writing, and that comes down to experience and knowledge of what keeps things interesting. And have some style, have some flair. If you have something going on that might not necessarily be the most flashy, make sure the style of your cinematography or the editing or something that you do to kind of add something interesting happening on screen. If you don't have that, you're going to lose your audience and you're not going to get programmed. We need to program films that are going to entertain our audience because that's who we cater to. We don't have a film festival if nobody shows up. So we need to program the films that are going to engage the audience the most. If your film is either too long or it doesn't contain enough interesting content, we're not going to program it. Number 1, and this should be of no shock to anybody that has any experience in filmmaking or watching films or being part of the screening process, the number 1 thing that will get you rejected by far from a film festival is bad audio. And I do mean bad audio. And I know before I said I don't like saying bad, I like being more constructive, but in this case, bad. Bad audio will get you rejected 100% of the time. It does not matter how good your film looks, how good your acting is, how tight your editing is. None of that matters if your audio is bad. It's just painful to watch. And that's either badly recorded audio or badly mixed audio. These are things you can somewhat fix in post through ADR and other kinds of mixing. And I speak from experience because bad audio held back at least a couple of my films. I know definitely one short film and maybe even my feature film to an extent. Not that either of those were terrible audio, but they also weren't great audio. And even not so great audio can hold your film back if it's compared to a film that is also good, but has better audio. It's really where you want to put your effort and your money if you have any. If you have the means at all to invest in somebody who knows what they're doing to be recording your audio on set, that's where to put your money. Or somebody that knows how to mix audio in post. You don't want to have your sound effects being louder than the environment that you recorded on set, or your music being too low that I can't hear it, or so loud that I can't hear what is being said. It's just a bad mix. You want to take your time to make sure that you get those levels correctly so that I don't have a bad time watching your film and I can understand what's going on. And if you can, test out the audio in different environments. You might listen to it in headphones and it sounds good, but when you watch it on TV, it doesn't sound so good. That did happen to me with a feature film where it sounded good when I was editing it in my headphones. And then I had a friend who owns a movie theater. I took it there and I tested it out and it just sounded bad in the theater. I had to go back and fix it. This is just my perspective. In my experience, both as a film festival organizer and a filmmaker going to film festivals and things that I see. I'm not saying that this will get you into every single festival, but it'll get you into more festivals because these are things that have held your films back in the past that if you get them right, they're going to get you over that hurdle and you're going to get better scores and you're going to get into more festivals. But I want to hear your opinion too. Let me know down in the comments, what have you seen at festivals or what has been your experience as a filmmaker that you think gets you rejected, or what do you want to know? Like, what other advice do you want? I want to have tough decisions. If I'm watching 150 films a year, I want to have 150 good films to watch so that I have to make tough choices of what films to get in. I want your films to be successful. I want my film festival to be successful. I just want everybody to be successful because that's just, who I am. And I'm a good guy. Don't you see it on my face? I'm a good guy. Did that go well? Be honest with me. Did that go well?